Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier. You're listening to Beyond the Plate with Cappy.
Hey everyone, this is Cappy, and you're listening to Just the Plate, a production of Beyond the Plate. Just the Plate is a short segment where chefs describe a dish or a recipe that is meaningful to them. Now, as you know, we usually have these chef seasons, and we have chefs sharing meaningful recipes that they create in their kitchens with you. But now for the celeb season, we're having our guests share something that they create in their kitchen. So some may be from a book or a restaurant that they're involved with, or again, something they just cook at home, but they've been pretty interesting so far. I've actually cooked a lot of these dishes from our Just the Plate episodes, and a lot of our listeners have too, so keep posting on social media, letting us know if you're cooking any of these recipes. I'll tell you, this next one, I'm going to get cooking really soon because it's a great dessert hack, if you will. So last week, you heard from Adrian Grenier. If you listened to last week's episode, you know this guy is extremely giving in every aspect of his life. He weaves philanthropy and social impact into, honestly, nearly everything he does. He's an actor, a filmmaker, a musician, an entrepreneur, a philanthropist. Most people maybe know him for his role as Vincent Chase in Entourage. He was also in The Devil Wears Prada and Drive Me Crazy. He's been part of multiple documentaries, and I can't help but mention again more about his Lonely Whale organization. It's dedicated to bringing people closer to the world's oceans through education and awareness. So this work has actually had a major impact on reducing the amount of plastics in the oceans. More specific, I'm sure you've heard plenty about the banning of plastic straws. A lot of hotels and restaurants and restaurant groups coast to coast are going plastic strawless, I'll say, and using paper straws. As I always like to say, if you missed last week's episode, please be sure to check that out. But for now, Adrian is going to share with you an Apple Crumble. I don't know which direction he was going to go. For some reason, I've read some stuff about him like loving breakfast foods, and he kind of considers this as such, but it's also a dessert. So it's a great dessert hack, if you will. He talks about things like tips for types of apple he uses. He actually uses an interesting ingredient, coconut sugar, which he shares why, and his topping for the crumble is what really gets me. So I'll stop talking. This is Just the Plate.
Well, something that I've really enjoyed making as of late is a dessert, an apple crumble. It's really easy to make and always a hit. And basically just take a bunch of apples. I don't usually measure much. I just kind of feel it out. But you take a bunch of apples, imagine how many people you have, and then just feel it out. And I don't know, like 2 apples per person usually or something like that. Also keep in mind that they're going to shrink. So if you have a big person, maybe 3 apples, and then peel them, chop them into small pieces. That's up to you how big you want them to be or what shape, but just cut them up and then throw a little bit of coconut sugar or some sort of sweetener. You can use honey or agave, just something to sweeten them up. I just basically dust them. I don't like it to be too sweet personally, and you can always add. So a little bit of sweetener, dust it with some flour just as a thickener, and then put some coconut oil. This is not in the right order, by the way. Actually, you should do the coconut oil first so that they absorb all the liquid. And then you can do the sugar and the flour, and then cinnamon, of course. But really, you could put any other, apple-y type lovely spices on there. And then you set the oven to about 300, 350 or so, and then just bake them for 40 minutes, 45 minutes. And now you have your base. And then what I do is I take the apples, I scoop them into a bowl, and then because I'm lazy or maybe because I'm smart, I don't know, I take some granola that my mom makes. She has a company called International Harvest, and they have a great line of granolas, and I just sprinkle some of that over the apple dish, and then you basically have your apple crumble. And then I would also recommend doing fun things like you take cacao bits and throw some cacao on there, or if you want like a nuttier flavor, you could throw some hemp seeds on there. Yeah, just experiment, have some fun. But essentially, you got the base, which is lightly sweet apple mixture, and then your granola on top, which gives it that crunch, and have fun with it and enjoy.
Do you have a preference in apple, like red, green, or a specific type?
Well, because I don't put a lot of sugar, I like to take some red and mix them with the Granny Smith, like green, more tart apples.
I like that. That's a good idea.
So finding that natural sweetness is key.
And then the coconut sugar, I'm fascinated with. I've never really used it, but my mother loves to experiment with ingredients of that nature, I'll say. Is there anything you could share on that? Is it not as sweet as regular sugar? Is it a little more, I'll use the word healthy per se, or do you have any personal experience?
Dude, I will be just totally frank with you. I'm not that precious in my cooking.
Got it.
I sort of shoot from the hip. I love the process. I love making mistakes. I love skimming by the seat of my pants and not knowing if it's going to be any good at all. Finding victory, by trudging through the worst parts of cooking. You're just like, I don't know if this is going to work.
Yeah.
That's why I like it. I find it to be fun, and it doesn't always have to be like it comes out in the movies or in a magazine.
Yeah. I love that though. That's like real stuff. Just a shout out, because I was waiting for the top crumble part. I was like, I wonder where he's going to go with this, because there's so many different ways to do a crumble. And what a great hack that is for a crumble, to do these like delicious, freshly baked apples and then use a delicious granola. Obviously, you spoke about the one of your mother's company, which I mentioned last time. I still want to check out their products. But that's such a great idea, to spoon, your favorite granola over the top to get that crunchy streusel flavor, if you will.
Well, and by the way, this is not an unhealthy breakfast. You could, if you're not overloading it with sugar, and by the way, a lot of crumbles, they'll call for butter and brown sugar, and look, there's nothing wrong with butter and brown sugar, believe me, but that just takes it into a dessert land, and it's not, you don't necessarily need it. And if you're trying to be healthy and it's a breakfast, you don't necessarily want to have dessert for breakfast. Just tone down on the sugars. And by the way, there's plenty of sweetness in those apples, and even in my mom's granola, there's raisins and mulberries and all sorts of naturally sweet items. So it brings it into a healthier place, and it's still good.
Another new dish for the listeners. I appreciate that. Thanks again for letting us grab you. I'm going to let you go. I'm going to give this one a shot in the kitchen soon.
Yeah, enjoy.
Awesome. Thanks, Adrian.
All right, man. Bye.
Find more on Adrian Grenier by Googling Adrian Grenier. I'm kidding. Check out his Lonely Whale organization at lonelywhale.org. This episode was produced by myself, along with Ian Cohen and Joel Yeaton. Find me and keep up to date with this podcast across all social media platforms at On Cappy's Plate, or go to beyondtheplatepodcast.com. Beyond the Plate is on Twitter at BT Plate Podcast and Facebook. Please rate, review, and subscribe to this podcast on your listening site of choice. Thank you for listening to Just the Plate, a production of Beyond the Plate. I'm Cappy.